Hi, everyone. It's STK here for a deeper dive into your Attractor event. So I put the first event in the chat if you want to watch the replay of the basics of the Attractor event. And this is for you to go deeper with me. And what we're going to talk about today is really knowing your ideal client at that cellular level, psychographics, demographics. What name would attract them? For instance, if you're going to call your event, I'm going to pick on Nikki because I know her business really well. If she's going to call her event using NLP to do something, well, there's so many people who don't know what that is that they might not even come. And her ideal client doesn't want to use NLP. They want to tackle maybe their money mindset, or maybe they want to tackle their beliefs about their own success. So just switching the wording on something is going to have more people be interested in what you're doing. So what we're going to start off with first, if you have a pen and paper, which I always encourage at my events, we want detailed client profiles. And I'm going to grab mine and I'm going to screen share. I'm going to show you what a detailed profile looks like. And the beautiful thing about my detailed profile, it came from working with ChatGPT with tons of detail about me, my business, my background, my certifications. I took my about page. I took 40 testimonials of what people said about me, put that all into a thread in ChatGPT, and I got back this really detailed profile. And the benefits of having that, for example, when I went to get a speaking gig for a really high level mastermind group, I went right to this detailed profile and looked at the problems I solve and what could be the problems of people in that group, and took the description of my talk and made it fit their problems. And my acceptance rate for talks to small groups like that has gone through the roof because I'm taking my content and helping it address their perceived problems. So this is really key, and we'll go deeper into that today. Let me grab my ideal client profile, and I'm going to share my screen and show you what this looks like. And if you don't have a document that looks like this, I think a really cool thing to start is a document, or call it a Bible for your business, where you keep all of this important information so that even without the use of AI, you have this reference point, this organized system of, I can go right to my Evernote and I can look under Suzanne coaching and client, and I can look right up to, okay, where is my ideal client profile? There it is, and bring it up and reference it until this stuff becomes part of your cellular memory. Like, this has to be number one in you making a difference, connecting with your ideal client. So let me pull this up for you and I'll share my screen. Any questions so far about ideal client? Do any of you not know your ideal client, psychographics, demographics, all that good stuff? Just unmute and talk. We're casual around here.
I know some of what my ideal client is. Took me a while to figure it out, but I mean, in terms of age and sex and stuff like that, I haven't drilled down into it that deeply, but I did figure it out a while ago, which is interior designers are a
Okay,
really good market for me as an artist.
awesome.
Architects would be another one, but interior designers is the main one.
Okay. So this is the suggested way I recommend to structure your information. So basically, I have my new niche defined as of January. And then here's the demographic piece. And, this came from not only working with so many clients over the years who were my favorites and what were their qualities that they had, but more importantly, who's in the market for what I have to sell. So that's great, Nathan, that you kind of narrowed in on, well, who would be interested in purchasing what I have to sell? That makes a lot of sense. Um, One of the really interesting pieces that came up in the psychographics piece is the mindset. The mindset of the person, I don't have to talk into working with me. I don't have to sell myself as hard because they already value the things that I stand for. This is really important as well. Their lifestyle is busy and focused on performing at a higher level. They also value that personal fulfillment. So I'm going to give you a couple prompts to help you come up with some of those psychographics for your client. The challenges. I recently expanded this with these bottom ones here because of feedback that I got from not only a beta test group of coaches that I worked with, but some friends that are CEOs who don't talk to anybody except their wife. And I just said, hey, can I pick your brain for a second about what your current problems are that you don't talk to anybody else about? And the shocking thing for me was the bottom two: isolation relief and change management. I was shocked by that. Why? Because a leader is somebody that people are following. How could they be lonely? Oh, they just feel lonely because nobody understands their problems. And then change management is not necessarily in your organization, but it could be with my clients personally. So, this is another key thing. What are the personal things your ideal person, David George Brooke, to pay for your mastermind, your ideal person is struggling with? And it might be something different than you think. So, this is really important to appeal to that thing that's their internal struggle in order to pay you for your group. And it could be something as simple as disconnected relationships. Disconnected relationships, gratitude is going to bring a lot of that into focus. So we're going to go there today. What are those lesser known challenges? Everybody knows burnout's a problem with CEOs, right? But who knew that internal and external change was hard for them? That was really insightful. Then you must know your client's goals. What are the goals that they're going to achieve by coming to your event? What are the goals they're going to achieve when they work with you? Motivations for your ideal client, also very important. Pain points that they might be experiencing in your life. This is number one for me: health concerns, because my ideal client is so overworked, stressed out, spread too thin, and managing time poorly that they're beginning to have health issues. And face it, most of my clients are over 50, like me, things starting to fall apart. So that's a perfect in for me to start that conversation. And then how your coaching helps. How do you relate what you do or what you sell to those problems? And once you know this right here, that's how you get more referrals, more introductions, and more clarity on that person booking a time with you and them saying, oh, how do I work with you, rather than you needing to sell to them. Um, all right, so I'll stop with that and we're going to create yours. Melissa Henry, great to see you. Hi, Robert Rosenberg. Great to see you as well. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so first thing, grab your pen or open up your chat GPT, whichever way you want to do this. And we want to either ask chat GPT to create an ideal client profile for you. And I'm going to give you a prompt for that. Don't worry, I got you covered. And here's the first prompt. I'm going to put it in the chat. I like to be very hands-on with these things. So if you're not into creating right now while you're on the call, that's totally fine. Save the chat and you can go back and do this later. So this is a very basic prompt to start the conversation about defining the demographics and psychographics of your ideal client, and then insert your industry. If you have your brand is about statement, for any of you that was at my first AI workshop about your brand voice, you should have a statement saved somewhere. My brand is about. You can use that before this prompt.
Suzanne, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Is there a way to search prior chats on the
Do
computer? There's a search feature on the phone option. I always stumble when I get to my computer.
I have never looked for that. Do you have the paid version?
Yes.
Okay.
And I was looking for the one we did in your last session. So my default prompt is I go on my phone, I find it, I move it to the top, and then I go to the.
That's a good, yeah.
And then it
I
shows
don't
up.
see it on the desktop. So
Yeah, I don't either. Okay.
You can train the GPT to be GPT agents. So if the GPT is doing a certain function, you can label it, and then when you click on your the down screen to sort of show all the options you've got, you can quickly access it that way. I found a video on social media the other day that showed how to do that. So
Thank you.
just my email's in the chat. Just reach out and I'll send you the link so you can learn how to do that.
I will. Thanks, Justin.
No worries.
oh, sure, Robert. What do you want me to share?
The way to back into it, if anybody else wondering. So if you have it on your phone, in the phone option, there is a search bar at the top. You put in what you want, and then if you go onto it, that becomes your most recent chat, and then you go back to the computer and it winds up at the top.
Oh, that's great.
Not ideal, but I haven't
Well,
done it.
also on your phone, I think you can talk to it as well, but you can't do that on the desktop.
There's something called MIA, M-I-A. It's an extension, and that
Yeah.
does allow you to do it on the desktop. But I sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, not at all. No, we're all learning from each other here as well. So the interesting thing about using ChatGPT on your phone is that you can talk to it. So I actually listened to a podcast where the whole entire podcast was ChatGPT interviewing the host of the podcast, and they went back and forth, talking to each other, and it was kind of scary genius. I really loved it. So first prompt goes in, and if you're doing this yourself, here's what to think about. Think about the type of person, if you haven't worked with any clients, this is hard. But if you've worked with at least 10, 20 clients, you can think about, who was my favorite one? What qualities did they have? And for those of you that haven't had any clients for a new offer, think about who you want to work with. Who is that person? What are their qualities that they have that would make you really excited to work with them? And make a list of those emotional things that connect you to that client. And, for me, I like making a difference for people. I like making that aha moment, or getting somebody to their first client, or getting somebody to up level their pricing, and then they finally say their higher price and they actually get a yes. Like that makes me really excited. Launching somebody's membership program and having them get to the point where, and so I'm thinking about all of these things when I think about that ideal person that I want to connect with. And then what are the qualities that your ideal client has? Are they action takers? Are they movers and shakers? Are they, in charge of other people? I know Craig, he's more of a high performance coach for leaders, but so they're in charge of other people. So maybe they're looking to make a bigger difference with the people that they lead. No fair drinking Starbucks in front of me either, Craig. Thank you. So Craig's people are looking to make a bigger difference in their people below them. So what are the things that they're going to be attracted to? We have to start getting in their head, not being in our head, deciding what we want. Doesn't matter what you want. Your program could be amazing. Your offer could be the best thing you've ever created. And if you call it and name it the wrong thing, nobody is going to buy it. I know because I've done it numerous times. Numerous times. And so the key here really is being in their head. And if you need to do some market research, I have a couple ways for you to reach out to those ideal clients and get information from them. And you can see me privately. We can have that conversation about you actually talking to your ideal client and asking them 2 or 3 questions that would be really, really helpful for this information. So if you need to do that, let me know and we can talk about that. All right, your next step after thinking about the qualities of that person and what attracts you to that person is coming up with that strong value proposition or POV, point of view. In category design, we talk about point of view. You could call yourself a business coach, but your POV is so different than everybody else's. It becomes very, very distinctive. So let's talk about point of view for a second. Charlotte's got a really unique point of view about intergenerational communication. She came to that point of view because of her own life experiences that had nothing to do with what she does in business. So that's how she brings that point of view to her business. So what's your unique point of view about what you do? Troy has you almost all of you have a really unique point of view, but it's about getting that point of view out into the world in a bigger way. How do you do that? By talking to more people. So here I am in front of this small group. If I didn't have a point of view about accelerating business for people, you wouldn't all be here. You're here because you trust me. You're here because you're seeing me do what I'm asking you to do. So if I was selling you, I don't know, soap for your face, would you be here? No, because I'm doing what I'm offering you. And that point of view of accelerating business means that you don't have to wait a year to get results when you work with me. Okay, cool. That's an interesting point of view, Suzanne. How do you do that? Well, instead of a year-long mastermind, I have an 8-week program where you get a year's worth of results in 8 weeks. And people go, oh, I've never been in a coaching program like that. Well, you can't be doing another program when you work with me. What do you mean? You can't be working with another coach when you work with me. You can't be learning anything else when you work with me because I will overwhelm you. Does that sound up your alley? Yes? Then come on. No? Go away. So that point of view actually polarizes people? Who has a point of view? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Who's got a point of view? All right, Justin, what's your point of view?
Well, it's interesting that I've listened to your version of this because I've done a lot of work on this. And, my tagline is I help frustrated rock stars go big. Some people like or dislike that. And it's interesting to say, well, what if I don't consider myself a rock star? I go, okay. And just like you said, like kind of, if you can connect with the term, good. And if you can't connect with the term, that's fine too. Qualifying and disqualifying is just as important. But I wrote down this. I went, what is it that I actually kind of do? I go, I help you look, feel, and sound good so you can do good and get good. I just sort of realized that that was really the common theme of everything that I do is, making a auditory, a visual, and emotional story and connection for people that impacts their marketing as well as their sales outcomes. And I'd never really looked at it like that.
I
So
love that.
thanks for the refresh. That was awesome.
Yeah, I love that. Craig, go ahead.
Yeah, my point of view is really living a fulfilled life is a choice and you own it.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
That's
Anyone
great.
else want to share their point of view? Go ahead, Robert.
So my focus is on creating a strong foundation for businesses. A lot of businesses put their heads down and start charging ahead into their whatever they do. So my background as a lawyer allows me to help them take a step back and make sure that they have the foundation in place for sustainable growth.
Love it. And you could make that a lot sexier and shorter.
Yes.
Have Chat GPT give you some ideas on that. Your unique perspective of being an attorney before a business coach, you could really do a lot with that by making it, I do this so you don't have to do this kind of statement.
But so then, like, I guess it, plays off of for BNI. So I help business owners identify opportunities in their marketplace, which allows them to grow their business in an NYCK minute.
Still could be sexier.
Good. Always a work in progress.
Yeah, we'll get you. It's the BNI thing. You could keep that for BNI, but then when you're meeting in a place like this, like I'm just going to give you my two versions. My BNI version is I'm a business catalyst. I help entrepreneurs go from stuck at 100K a year to flourishing at 100K a month, something like that. That would be my BNI statement. My statement to a bold entrepreneur would be something more like one of my favorite words. I help entrepreneurs become unfuckwithable so they can have the life of their dreams. That's the rock star version of Suzanne. And I would
I want the t-shirt.
I want the t-shirt.
Got to get the t-shirt.
I want the coffee mug.
Unfuckwithable. Like, yeah, like, come on.
I
You
know.
got a whole merch line right there.
I know. I love it. I love it so much. But there's a piece of me that's like, ooh, what would my mom say if I put that on my LinkedIn profile? She
No.
wouldn't like it.
Exactly.
She wouldn't like it.
Exactly.
Yeah. She wouldn't like it.
Love
So
it.
there's always that internal point of view that's bolder and crazier and it maybe a little polarizing. Like I don't go around saying curse words all the time, but get me in the right environment and I'll drop a couple, right? And the more you know me, the more that's okay. And if it's not okay, again, go away, right? And I love the fact that I can say that to this group. I'm working on being able to say that all the time. I would love to call a coaching program that. Are you kidding me? I would love it. I would absolutely love it. Maybe I should just do it. The unfuckwithable entrepreneur. I don't know. Maybe.
What's
Good
stopping
question.
you?
What's stopping you?
Yeah.
What would people think?
What they
Exactly.
think?
What would they think? But that's the whole point.
No? What
I think
stops
that
you?
the,
What stops you?
the I mean, the lens that like the Chat GPT has quite functional language,
Hmm.
but you're getting into this internal stuff, which is
Yeah.
actually emotional provocation.
Yeah.
And people buy emotionally and defend it logically. I'm going to be much more emotional in terms of my reaction to that than I am all these practical business definitions. They're just dry. They're so dry.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a star. I'm looking for a star. And if you can't say anything that resembles a star, you aren't one.
Hmm.
And that's the hard part, is that so many people know that they are stars, but they
Hmm.
won't say anything that tells everybody else that.
Yes. Yes. And I just had a conversation earlier today with my podcast producer about what is it? What is that intangible quality? I call it charisma, or I call it charm, or what is that thing that makes you have awesome energy, and people can feel that, people can feel my excitement, and it's a combination of body language, facial expression, words that I say. Can I teach that to somebody? Yes, I can absolutely teach that to somebody, but more important than that, what would it feel like for somebody else who doesn't have that to have that? And that's a totally different headspace to get in. I have to do that if I'm going to attract somebody to me for my program that teaches that, right? What I'm asking you to do is get into that space of, what does it feel like for that person you're trying to attract? And what's the word or two or three that's going to make them say, I need to hire Nikki. I need Charlotte to come into my company. I need David to get me to that next profit center zone. Like, what is it? And I will tell you that I met someone about a year ago, and they looked me up, and he wants to be a digital creator, wants to be a digital nomad. That's his goal. He was working on a cruise ship when I met him. And I said, connect with me on Facebook and I'll share some resources with you. Well, the next night at dinner, as he comes over to wait on us, his face had changed. It wasn't the smile that he normally had. It was, oh my God, you're famous. You're this. You have this, and you have this, and you're going to give me advice. Thank you so much. Immediately, his point of view of me changed because I had things that he valued. That's it. And my husband stood there rolling his eyes like, oh God, don't tell her she's famous, or this is going to be all night, right? But for me, it meant something because I'm going to provide value to somebody who sees where I am is where he wants to be. And that's where you have to get to for your client, for your person to be attracted to you, to say, Craig's the coach for me. They have to see something, hear something that makes them say, I want to be like that. He has knowledge that I need. He has information that will get me to where I want to go faster. Does that make sense? All right, questions in regard to creating this document for yourself. Where do you stand on that?
Do you have a template for it?
Yes. Yes, I do.
All right, rock on.
Yes.
I love it. The point of view thing, very much so. And that last thing that you said about, how do you get this thing that I've got, or this feeling, or this vibe, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Me being an energy guy, like you, Suzanne, uh, I love that, because I haven't really ever framed my value that way. And I think that's great. It's that whole sort of superhero transformation thing.
Yeah.
Like you were once normal and now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say I just love that language framing. I thought it was really powerful.
Yeah, I get that all comes from category design. And if you're curious about what that means to be your own category, maybe that is naming yourself something bold and not just a business coach, like calling yourself something else or having that differentiator in the marketplace. And I'm going to share two prompts with you that I love for that purpose. And the first one is, how do I differentiate my product service from competitors in that marketplace? So, when it comes to putting your product and service in that parentheses, don't skimp. Add as much information in between those brackets as you can. Your whole program outline, all your certifications, maybe your bio, all of that can go into the thread and it'll pick out the things that make you different. And it took me to add my personal bio. When I added in my personal bio to my thread, my personal challenges that I've had in life become an asset for my future clients because I'm not dead yet, right? I tackled those issues. So they become really distinguishable assets for my clients to benefit from. And
Suzanne, it was so funny when I saw that question pop up in
yeah,
the chat because I was just about to interject and say, so would you say point of view is what differentiates you from your competitors? And then boom, that popped up there. I was like, whoa. But going back to that question, is that what you see as one's point of view is the thing that differentiates them from their competitors? Or is there more to what you mean by what's your point of view?
well, I think it's twofold. And I appreciate this question a lot. I think it's, where do you stand? I have 4 belief statements that I've created about what I do. And they're my line in the sand, what I believe about coaching, about what serving other people. And they're on my about page on my website before you get to about me. Because if those belief statements don't resonate with you, I'm probably not the coach for you. So again, that's taking a stand. I believe coaching is custom and co-created in conversation with a client. So if you think you've paid for coaching before and you never talked to the coach, you didn't have coaching. If you've paid for a coaching program before and you didn't get coached by the person who designed the program, you didn't get coaching. You got basically an accountability partner who's been through the program before. Like, I have really strong beliefs about what I do. And if I say them, it's bold. It's something other people aren't saying. I made a comment. David Visco sent me a post from a Facebook group that we're both in. And the post was questioning this person didn't have any clients yet and wanted to borrow testimonials from other people. And I was like, oh, no. And I commented. And they might even delete my comment. It was so obnoxious. But like, that's not the way to grow your business. Borrowing someone else's testimonials, absurd. No. Go help some people for free and get them to say some nice things about you, and then you'll have some testimonials.
Oh my gosh. That reminds me of someone I knew who was doing some keynote speaking, much of it free. And she was listing anyone in her audience who worked for a company. She said she'd spoken for that company. I was like, holy cow, seriously? Just take the testimonials off.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing and what you're saying is it's not just what differentiates you from your competitors, although that's important. It's what would make you the right fit, even if you had no competitors.
Yeah.
It's who you work with and why people work with you.
Yeah.
I think that the reframe is that what Suzanne is talking about is actually creating a category of one. And a category of one, there is no competition. So the whole competition conversation doesn't exist. you know, 22 immutable laws of marketing and category of one stuff is just so vitally important. And Milo, you've got such crazy skills,
Mhm.
you know, that I think this wouldn't be difficult for you because, again, you're
I
really
I
gifted at what
appreciate
you do.
I appreciate that. And yet when I try and look at my ideal client thing, it's so broad. Gender
Yeah.
definitely isn't it. Age definitely isn't it. Industry is all over the place. I would love that I was the only tech person because tech was what found me and but that's not the case. Love working in healthcare, loved working with individuals, loved working with a father of the bride recently. So I
Mhm.
find it really hard to do this niching thing by who the client should be rather than what do I do well? I think that's where I try to do my point of view is
Yeah.
what do I do well.
Well, the other thing is to be more polarizing. So if you're stronger in your convictions, then it'll kind of start to self-select. So I noticed as I got stronger in my convictions, what I wanted, what I didn't want, my clients got more and more similar. Male, over 50, some sort of corporate experience or entrepreneur owning a business experience before doing what they do now. Typically an athlete, typically either church going or spiritual. And so I started looking at all of those things, and all of a sudden, more of those people are showing up. More of those people are showing up. Why? Because I resonate with them. And so leaning into that, I also notice that I've had 9 clients who were former military officers. What? What is that about? Oh, my dad was a military officer before he left the military. Oh, maybe I have some of those values instilled in me that are subconscious, energetic, whatever. And those people feel safe and comfortable with me because I understand them. Now, what happens once I realize I've had 8 of those? What happens if I start reaching out to those and building relationships based on the rapport I know how to build with that person? Oh, shit. That's a whole new niche for Suzanne to help them step into their intellectual property after they retire from the military. I could be really into that.
That totally resonates, actually hearing you say that, because you're
Mhm,
so good at boundaries and application. You know,
mhm.
application of knowledge and boundaries, which, as you can
Yes.
hear, is definitely a military type thing. And don't talk about it, be about it. You know, because 8 weeks versus 12 months, you know, sort of says it all, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. What a great insight.
But it wasn't until I didn't have that insight before working with people. So this all comes with the experience and the time and you keep reinventing yourself. And many people who have looked at my journey for the past 16 years, I started as a health coach, then positive psychology, mindset coaching, then business coaching. And then, even the business coaching has evolved 3 or 4 times. And I've gotten criticism for that. Too bad, so sad. Because guess what? It's that evolution that most people aren't willing to do. It's the change. What did we talk about? My ideal client struggles with internal and external change. So if your business isn't currently working for you, it's time for you to change internally or externally. Cool. I'm a pro at that, not only for myself, but other people. What would it be like for you to say those same things to somebody? And I'm not talking a prospect. I'm talking when you have a room full of people who are curious about a topic. Could be AI, could be gratitude, like David George Brooke. It could be business coaching. It could be Troy does some amazing work with first responders. What topics are they interested in coming to? And then they hear your values and your POV, and it makes them say, God, I need to work with Troy. I need to be in David's group. I need to explore what it would be like to work with Robert. I need Nikki to help me with my mindset. All because you're stepping more authentically into you. It allows your ideal client to identify right in front of you and say, I teach like 10 or 15-minute first get to know you meetings with people. Do you know how many people in that get to know you meeting? They go first, then I go, and they're like, I need that, Suzanne. Oh, well, we're not here to talk about that today. I just wanted to get to know you. And they're like, well, I want to talk about it. Well, I don't have time right now, that like I wasn't expecting this. And then they reschedule for another time with me to have that sales conversation. And that's easy. Spamming people, messaging people, recruiting people, all those words feel horrible to me. I'd rather show up because I know the person sitting across from me. Nathan.
Oops, if I unmute. Yeah,
That's
I
okay.
just put a polarizing statement into the chat,
Okay.
which is something that has come up for me a number of times, which is if you use AI and you don't know how to see as an artist, you will create a lot of slick looking bad computer art.
Mm.
And a follow up to it is if you use AI in this way, you don't know how to see, you will fool your buddies, you will fool your friends, but you won't fool a creative director or you won't fool an art director or another creative professional.
Mm.
And there was one guy who kept coming after me on my timeline to put me in my place, to fight with me, and to keep trying to tell me how great he was. And at one point, he brought up this image and he said, it's perfect. I said, no, it's not. Do you know what's wrong with it? He said, no, it's perfect. And I said, precisely my point. There are
Mm.
several things wrong with it. You don't know what they are. And even if I told you what they are, you wouldn't be able to fix them.
Yeah,
And he
see,
just
that's
kept,
your point
and he
of view.
just,
That's your belief statements
yeah.
that it gets the emotion going. Right.
Oh, yeah, it definitely does.
That's the key.
I'm not exactly sure how I would use it with what I'm doing, but there are a lot of people out there who think that AI is a cat's meow, which it is in many ways. But if you don't know how to use it,
Correct.
like I said, you're going to create a lot of slick looking bad computer art. Now, I had a conversation with my friend of mine who's also been my mentor, who was the one who told me to go to art school.
Hmm.
And when I gave him this statement, he said, that's the best statement I've ever heard of anybody to describe what's going on.
Yeah.
So how I could
Yeah.
monetize that, haven't a clue. But
Well,
it's interesting
it
that we're here.
starts with standing in those belief statements. And if you
Ah,
create a couple of them for yourself, I believe da da da, and really stand in those beliefs. And, has it offended some people in my world?
oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, in the case of this one guy, he kept coming after me and after me and after me. And finally, it's like, enough. I'm blocking you.
Yeah.
You don't know what
That's
the
how
hell
you
you're
know you're on the
talking
right
about.
track.
Yeah,
That's
I said, you don't
that's
know
how
what,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah. I said, you don't know
Nathan,
what you're talking about, and you keep trying to put me in my place. And I keep telling you what's wrong. You refuse to listen to me. Bye. It's like what you said earlier.
Yep.
Bye.
Yeah.
Definitely
Nathan,
not
one
the
of
right time.
the thing that is in the middle of what you're saying and what Suzanne's saying is that like how to win friends and influence people. Like, don't make them wrong, but differentiate yourself from them in such a way where they see, you're not going to fall for that. That's why I put in
Right.
response to your post. The new
What's the
normal is
maybe
AI,
rephrase?
and the new unique is human art. I am the latter. So,
Hmm,
you're actually saying, hey, because in marketing, everyone's driven by status. You're saying,
sure.
oh, you think AI is cool. AI is, everybody's doing it. Blah. What I'm doing is this XYZ. Now, that immediately differentiates you as premium,
Mhm.
different,
Oh,
unique. And now I want to know is what sort of human art does this guy create that's better than AI? I'm immediately curious.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, because again, those endless fights about your value-based conversations never resolve ever.
Hmm.
You're never going to change someone's values in a Facebook conversation.
No.
However, you can define who you are, what you stand for, and say, that's interesting in your perspective. I appreciate hearing that. Not where I come
Yeah.
from, but I appreciate your feedback and just move on because what a waste of energy, right?
Yeah,
Well,
there was
it was
somebody.
definitely, sorry,
I was just going to
I-
say, I made a statement on Facebook not too long ago, probably when I started, working on my fitness and my food and losing weight. And I just said it was a matter of a decision for me that being fit and being back in shape was more important than a piece of chocolate cake and 3 glasses of wine. And somebody commented, well, it's not just a decision for me. And I said, yeah, it is. Even if you have a medical issue that's making you overweight, it's still a decision to fix the medical issue and lose the weight.
yeah,
You're still choosing. Oh, what? And she wanted to go back and forth on it, and I
well,
said, no,
part of what,
sorry.
I mean, it's interesting you bring this up because part of what you're dealing with is the victim mindset, where
Yes,
they don't really want to change. They do want to change, but they don't want to pay the price. And I remember seeing in one group, and I lost a lot of friends over it. I said, depression is a choice. And they're going, no, 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 it's this and that. No, it's a choice. And like one of the most powerful lessons I learned came from a friend of mine in Australia. And when I learned it, it completely changed my life. And this was in December. And he said to me that the number one reason you're having a problem is you're not taking 100% responsibility for
there
your
you
life.
go. There you
And
go.
and then he spoke about the victim mindset. He went into enormous detail, but what happened is not only did I get it, it evolved quite a bit to the point where he actually interviewed me for a video that he did on this very topic. Because
Nathan,
if you accept
Nathan,
responsibility, yeah.
I
Sorry,
want to
go ahead.
challenge you right now with the
Go for it.
next series of prompts. So I want you
Sure.
to take everything you just said and ask ChatGPT, can you suggest ways to develop this authentic voice for my brand that resonates with that ideal client of yours?
Oh, okay.
You
So
have
how
some great polarizing beliefs, those strong convictions that you have, right or wrong. I don't even care, right or wrong, doesn't matter. You can use those to have people raise their hand who resonate with what you're saying.
got
Um,
it? Thank you.
Number two, the second prompt is storytelling techniques that you can use to connect. Storytelling techniques, there's about 16 or 17 different ones according to like copywriters, right? It's like hook, story, close, or identify, empathize, attract, and I forget. But ChatGPT knows all the storytelling frameworks. So if you say, what storytelling frameworks are going to resonate with my ideal client, it's going to give you the framework. Then, once you have the framework, I like hook, story, close for social media posts. That's a Dean Graziosi term, but ChatGPT knows
Okay.
it. So if I say, hey, Chat, give me a story in the hook, story, close framework about me doing this, and I explain the story in bullet points or not even full sentences, and it'll make the story, but it's a story about me. And then I edit, and then it's going to resonate more with my ideal client because it's in the framework that my ideal client likes. So figure out what your ideal client likes, what story framework, and then write in that framework.
I was with you everything except the part where you said it's a story about me, because it's not. It's a story about ChatGPT that ChatGPT
No,
made up of.
no, I put in all the details. Tell a story about me when I left work early one day because
Oh,
my
you are giving it that much. Okay.
oh yes. Yeah.
I thought
Tell
you
a
were asking it to
story.
generate a story on this topic. But
No,
You're giving it far more. Okay.
Far more. Like, tell a story about when I left work early, 4 hours early one day, because all my patients canceled. That day happened to be my mom's birthday. So I called her early to wish her a happy birthday. And oops, she died while I was on the phone with her. And the only reason I was able to talk to her the last time is because those 4 patients in a row canceled and I went home early. Tell the story with an emotional twist. Tell the story from a lesson learned about having meaningful conversations with those you love before something bad happens. And the emotion that came back from ChatGPT was so good, better than I could have written myself, even though it was still a very meaningful and powerful story for me. So the more you give it about your stories, and it can be choppy, broken up, you can bullet point. I typically have my clients come up with 25 stories about their life or their business that relate to business. So to me, personal stories that you can relate to your business and the work that you do, really impactful. So your ideal client, I'll pick on Craig. His ideal client is a high performer already. So there's only going to be certain stories Craig could tell. He can't tell victim stories. He can't tell sad stories. He's got high achieving stories. And so, Craig, come up with 25 stories in your life when you functioned as a high performer. Doesn't have to be as a coach. Could be when you were 7 years old and you started getting on the honor roll and you did it every year until you were out of college, right? And use it to help you come up with stories that are going to resonate with the qualities of your ideal client. If my ideal client hates fluff, they hate BS, and they hate going to a workshop or a webinar where the person giving the information talks about themselves for 40 minutes. Shut up. I'm not going. If it's that, I'm not showing up. If it's that for more than 5 minutes, leave, goodbye, see you later. So my clients feel the same way. So who would I be if I showed up and did that? If I don't like it, I have to embrace that as part of my brand, part of my story. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of going to something and hearing about somebody for 40 minutes and then they spend 5 minutes teaching me something stupid and then 15 minutes selling me something. No. You know what happened to my calendar when I stopped doing that 2 years ago? Oh, I only have to work 4 days a week now because I'm not listening to other people's BS. That's part of my POV. It's part of my charm. And if you're one of those people who talks about yourself for 40 minutes, see me after class and we'll talk about that. Nikki, you have a question.
Yeah, that was really awesome, Suzanne.
Thank you.
My question
That's not a
is,
script. FYI, there's no
I could-
script here today.
I could tell. It gave me the idea, though, a while back, there was a worksheet that you had given us about storytelling,
Yes.
come up with 10 or 15 stories. And I did. I'm wondering, a prompt to use to take the title I gave it and the bullet points and put it in there and somehow ask it to give me my POV
Yes.
or stories that would relate to my clients. What would you suggest?
I would suggest all of it. One thread
All of
just
it.
for storytelling for your brand.
Okay.
So programming that thread with your brand is about statement, your programs, your offers, maybe your about page, your bio, your certifications, anything that you can give it about you, and then put in the stories and start asking questions.
Okay, cool. Put all that in. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm going to share. Yeah, go ahead,
Oh,
Justin.
sorry. Oh, just a quick question. 25 stories sounds like a lot. So I imagine what's actually happening is that you have, like, say, 8 core stories, and then you have, like, say, 3 different frames for each one of those stories. Like, depending, like you say, that one that you had about your mother passing away, it's like, well, just trust that the universe is looking after you,
Yeah.
or just, you should communicate it. And so you've got like multiple outcomes almost that you could give to the same story. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay,
So
fabulous.
I like 25. One, because I have a lot of stories. I've lived a very colorful life before I became a coach. So I have a lot of stories, but also I like not telling the same stories all the time. So I wanted to have different options for different circumstance. So I don't recommend writing out the whole story. They have to be stories that immediately you can put yourself back into the emotion of that time. And if you, so you title the story, uh, I just call mine March 10th. That's the day that happened to me. And there's bullet points. I was a dental hygienist. I was working here. 4 patients canceled. Had a 1-mile drive home from work, like just bullet points. And then depending on the audience and the circumstance, different bullet points come out. And what I love about that, it's part of the ability to talk about things in relation to the people or person who's in front of you. And I gave a talk back in May. Nikki was there, and I had the talk arranged in my mind. I had slides, but I don't read from the slides. So the talk is different than the slides. And there was a piece of the talk that I forgot, that I didn't do. It wasn't relevant for that audience. So I trust now when I show up to speak somewhere without note cards and without a script, that the right thing is going to come out only because I practiced it enough. So the talk went really, really well. And there was a joke in there. It was just from one of my stories. Didn't plan on saying that joke. Didn't plan on making fun of myself in that way until somebody in the front row kind of chuckled. And it's somebody I know really well. And I pointed to him. I said, "Be careful. You'll be husband number 4." And oh my God, the laughter, right? And the ability to do that on the fly is only because I have all those stories already in here, ready to go.
But it's
And
also because you're good enough to know how to get back on track. Some people who do that lose their self on a tangent. And you
oh
have
yeah,
enough of a strength of what you're doing to
yeah.
be able to do that.
Yeah, true. But again, that only comes with practice. So if you haven't practiced talking to enough people, and I say this to every single person, talk to more people. I don't care what you need I don't care what you need in your business. I don't care if you need more clients. I don't care. Talk to more people who could possibly hire you. And don't spend time talking to people who are never going to hire you. And how do you figure that out? Exactly all the things we've talked about today. All right, I want to leave some time where it's already been an hour and I've talked entirely too much. Questions, comments, sarcasm, criticism, anything?
Yeah,
was great.
I'll just add one point on stories. One of my biggest learnings is, and you mentioned it, Suzanne, is for those to really be effective and powerful, I have found that I have to internalize them.
Yeah.
Because I remember I was on a big stage once, and it was I had not internalized a story, and I just forgot it, and it wasn't part of me. And so that was a huge learning, that those stories have to really become part of me, so that
Mhm.
it just rolls off. It rolls off my tongue, and you're somewhat in the moment, and so that I think, and that's been a big learning for me over the last couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think part of that is if it's an emotional story, you have to practice it enough in your head that is my mother passing an emotional story for me? Yes, absolutely. Could I make myself cry thinking about it? Yes, absolutely. But I can tell the story from an empowered place. And that's what's important. If you have a negative story, well, great. You have to have already found the gold in that story to tell it to other people. Otherwise, it comes off as victim mindset. Oh, poor me. Look what happened to me. I don't tell that story to say, oh my God, poor Suzanne, that happened to her. No, it's go have conversations with the people that mean something to you because you never know when shit like that's going to happen. That's an empowered, educating place to come from. And until you can do that, don't tell stories of negative things. Keep it from the positive.
Yeah, I love what you're sharing there, and I love seeing the reaction of people, by the way, when you told your mother's story, particularly Nikki, her mother. And I was just like, oh, that's awesome.
I wasn't
what a great
expecting that at
reaction.
all.
No, no, I saw that. I have a similar story. My grandfather, I was the last grandchild that he spoke to before he passed away in his seat, and I've told that story before, and it really resonated with people about the value of your relationships and
Yeah.
keeping in touch, which is also something a lot of business owners don't do. They don't keep in touch. So I really love the way that you're framing all that. And again, it's just a great reiteration of a lot of things that I believe in. And that's also that, if people aren't getting emotional, you're not doing very well.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of people out there that are just so practical and so logical and functional and strategic, and you hear all these words perpetually, and I go, dude, you are a human doing business. You're not a business.
Mm-hmm.
And I just so just hearing you kind of reframe all of that stuff, and the way that you're quite definitive about how emotions serve.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is the thing that I've discovered, is that a lot of people, I don't really have this in my DNA. I'm quite brave as a person, but most people I come across have a lot of fear about doing anything that will create a strong emotional response.
Mm.
And I just want to reiterate that what Suzanne's talking about is the key. Everybody can learn how to sell. Everybody can learn how to market. And I came up with this thing the other week, which was like, it's not know, like, and trust. It's like, know, and trust. And the likability comes from the emotional stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want to know you if I don't already have some sort of connection to you. Like I just don't.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've got work being done next door. I'll mute because it's loud. Sorry.
No, thank you for that. I think it's very, very true and very it's only been in the last 2 years of exploring all of this for myself that I'm able to even suggest you doing it for yourself. And I think I didn't fully realize that that was going to be required. It's been a shit ton of work to get to that place where I now could sit across from a billionaire and criticize what he's doing or ask questions about how it's working for him or her. And I said something a couple weeks ago that even surprised me, somebody that was introduced to me. And he asked me a couple questions about growing his business and working less, right up my alley. And I said, he's like, I don't know what I'd do with the extra time. And I kind of smiled and I said, you could get in shape. oops, right? But I said it in a very, I wasn't mean. I just said, you could get in shape. And he goes, oh, what do you mean? I'm like, well, when I started new boundaries in my business in January, I decided I wanted to be in fighting shape. And he's like, what's that mean? I said, well, I gained some weight during COVID and I lost my arm muscles and I didn't like how things were looking in certain clothes. So I thought, it's time to take that extra time I created in my business. And now 2 hours a day I spend working out. And I've lost 30 pounds so far. And he was like, shit, I want to do that. Cool. You want help? And it was a very natural conversation because not only can I help you do that, but I'm going to help you double your business while you're doing that. And I'm not afraid to say that anymore. So what is it for you that, you're afraid to challenge people? So if you're afraid to challenge people, guess what? So is 90% of other people out there trying to sell their products and services. So if you really want to be bold and affect great change in people, challenge them. One of my favorite sayings to my friends, my clients, I'm going to challenge you to do X before we talk next time. Ugh, that sounds scary. No, it's about getting out of that comfort zone a little bit.
Can you do that collectively, like in marketing, or does it have to be more that one-on-one conversation?
Well, I think that's interesting to explore, because marketing to me has now become more, things like I'm doing right now. You guys all getting to know me better. You've all met me before, but I think you know me a little bit better after today. You've learned something, you know me a little bit better, you know how I work with my clients a little bit better. So to me, that's fun marketing. Posting on LinkedIn, not fun marketing. Do I still do it? Yes, absolutely. Doing it at a mass scale, I think it has to be you talking, has to be video, number one, and it has to be you being bold and challenging and calling people to that better way of doing things that is your point of view.
Well, and I think in my case, one of the walls or objections that people haven't verbally said, but I think in their heads, the managers and business owners that I'm talking to or presenting to are probably like, oh, well, I don't really have that problem. My group really doesn't have that problem. And so maybe if I flip the presentation mode instead of, oh, education, 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 I get a little rougher and say, yeah, a lot of business owners think that they've got, a good system working in their companies, but they don't know what's happening underneath the surface or, stirring up. Maybe I need to, what was one of the things about, agitate, the pain, agitate, and the solution in the story. Maybe I should go more that way instead of, oh, I can help you do this, that, and the other. Maybe I need to inject, bring
Definitely.
to the forefront.
Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, totally.
The thing about your thing is that it comes, the intergenerational thing can come across like I'm dealing with someone who deals with grief in the workplace right now. We're about to start work together.
Okay.
And it's like, it can come across as like, oh, that's a nice thing to address.
Right.
Yes.
Instead of, it must be addressed.
Yes.
So if it must
Yes.
be addressed, then what you have to do is really have measured pain.
Yeah.
Like, you can't keep going, oh, let's make it a happier place in the workplace. Like, what do you do? Everybody says that. Who cares? Nobody cares. I go, but I say, well, if all your wisdom leaves at 50 in your workplace, do you think you'll maintain market leadership because you're giving so much autonomy to the young people?
Yeah.
Let's see how that works out for your profit and increasing sales and decreasing costs and compliance and all those issues. Not to mention AR legal issues. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Ageism
What's
is
the
real.
problem?
You see,
Justin,
bang,
you're saying
it's
the
like, oh,
problem.
shit.
below the problem. Like,
Mhm.
so if the problem's intergenerational communication, what's the problem below that? It's causing this and this and this and this. Oh, you say you don't have a communication problem, but do you have high staff turnover? Do you
Right.
have arguments in the workplace? Do you have miscommunications that cost you money? Like, whatever that problem below the problem is, that's the emotional dig
Yeah.
that you need to get to.
And in all the assessments and power words and all that, the authority is one that comes out with me. So it kind of fits, that
Yeah.
message would fit my style, so to speak. So thank you for
And,
that.
and Charlotte, I can give you the maths on that. I already know that 70% of a hire, of year one's hire, is the cost if you lose them.
Wow.
Mm.
So I used to work in recruitment and sales recruitment, and those were the numbers. So when
Okay.
you look at a big company that say got 1,000 people, and you take a percentage, and then you look at their wage, and you get 70%, and then you multiply that by how many years that's been happening. That's gap multiplied by pain, the duration, sorry, multiplied by pain. It comes to a very, very ugly number. And you say, would you like some help with that? And guess what? They
Yeah.
say,
I love that.
yes, I would.
Yeah. I like that. Justin, I might connect with you separately just to get you to recap that for me. So
I'm just glad it was of help. I think
Yeah,
Suzanne has
that's
opened up a
super
whole
helpful.
can of
Thank you.
awesome worms
Thank you.
today.
The other thing I wanted to say for those of you that are coaches of some sort working with individuals, you have to know the emotional journey of your client. I call it the empathy map. What's the emotion when you meet them? And what's the emotion that they want to get to? And what's the map between the two? If you don't have an emotion chart, just look it up online. And what's really interesting is that every emotion has a vibration. If you want to go a little bit woo-woo, wherever your client is starting vibrationally, if you meet them empathetically at that vibe, they're not going to be attracted to you. So if you're in lack and you're in fear and you're in that, oh God, I need a client, I got to pay my phone bill, blah, 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 blah. If you're in that emotional vibration, when they meet with you, you're not the person for them to hire to solve their emotional problem. Didn't fully grasp this for years. But last week, I went to an event, in person, networking event, and I walked up to this woman who I've had lunch with before. She hasn't seen me in about 6 months, maybe a year. And she used to come to my in-person networking group. She knows who I am. I swear to you. And she looked at me and she said, "Hi, my name's Kathy. What's your name and what do you do?" And I was like, "Kathy, it's Suzanne. We've had lunch together 3 or 4 times." Like, and it's not dementia or Alzheimer's. She's much younger than me. And she looks at me and she goes, "What have you done with yourself? I didn't even recognize you." And I was like, "Nothing. My hair's a little longer. Nothing. The only thing different, the vibe. That's it. The only thing different is how I'm showing up." And oh my God, it happened 2 more times that same night.
I
And
believe in your case, but I'm going to use that line when I don't recognize somebody's face now.
Yeah.
What have you done? You're so different.
just, what have you done with yourself?
That's a good
Yeah.
way out, man.
Yeah, you can get right out of the not knowing somebody. That's good.
But when
that.
it happened 3 times in one day, I'm guessing you're right about what it was for you.
Yeah, I think it was the vibe. But before COVID, I that's when my business kind of really took off. Before that, would I have been in the same like energy about what I'm doing? I wasn't, because my business has evolved. I'm doing what I really love. I'm showing up how I want to show up, unfuckwithable, right? I wasn't doing that before because I thought I had to be like everybody else.
And you were probably saying a lot of the same things, but the imposter syndrome goes away more as we become more real and more authentic
Yeah.
and know ourselves and know we're better at what we do. You know,
Yeah.
I've been doing what I do for over 20 years now, but I
Mhm.
feel a lot more confident telling people I'm a public speaking coach now because I have a track record. I know what I've done for people rather than I think I can really do this. Yeah, I can do this, you know,
Yeah.
even though I'm probably saying a lot of the same words.
Absolutely.
I think Suzanne's really embodying the alternative to attract and convert. You know, to me, I really had a look at that language and went, kind of icky. I
Mhm.
go, and you're an example of connect and solve.
Mm.
Like, you know, I'm connecting with you and we can solve the problem together. I go, of course you're buying. I don't have to ask.
Yeah.
You've already bought. You
Yeah.
know, like to me, that's just a very energetically natural ascension. And I think that's actually how humans feel. And I feel that the previous model, not to kind of break it down into gender, but from an energy standpoint, is way more masculine. Like I'm going to get you, and I'm
I'm
going
going
to
to
win, and you're
persuade
going to
you. I'm
pay,
going to
and
talk you into it, whatever.
yeah, you're going to be one of my people. It's like, hold on a
Yeah.
second, I'm my own person on my own journey. You know, like
Mhm.
so I love that, and I love your embodiment of that. For me, I had a bit of an energetic shift last year because I had heart surgery, and when I came out after that, I was just so much more interested in having good experiences with everybody in front of me,
Mm.
and really not that attached to what happens, other than making sure our exchange is highly valuable.
Yeah.
And a good time. And that has really made quite the shift for me in terms of the opportunities that are coming my way.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. Same. Like the shift when you go through something personally, you can choose to allow it to shift you into a higher vibe or a lower vibe. And I fully believe that's a choice we all have. You can tell my
Yeah,
mentor the past 2 years
I,
is
I
energy medicine, but
yeah,
it does make a
I love
difference.
it. It totally does. What's been really counterintuitive for me is I've had a problem with fatigue since my early 30s. And since I had my heart surgery, even though I don't really feel like my energy's got that much better because I still have some stuff to fix medically,
Mhm.
um, I'm way more consistent.
Hmm.
You know, in terms of my workload, I'm not going to work going, oh God, I've got to get this, and I've got to do this, and gotta. I don't have that. I
Yeah.
just, you know, like I just don't. And it's made a lot of difference for me because
Mhm.
what I've realized is that half of my energetic drain is anxiety about outcome.
Mm.
You know, you think that it's because I worked all day, I'm tired. No, it's not.
Mm-mm.
It's because you're focusing on stuff outside of your control. You're focusing on shit, I better make this sale because this bill's coming and da 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 da, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And you know what I've kind of discovered is that, and I say this to my wife all the time, um, it'll be all right because it's always all right.
Yeah.
You know, like whatever happens, it's just a degree of comfort. That's what I've discovered.
Mhm.
Whether you're in abundance or not, what you're really talking about is just a level of discomfort in the Western world.
Yeah.
You know, are you flatting? Are you owning a house? You're in a house. 3/4 of the population of the planet don't have one. So shut up. You know, like, and on it goes. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
realize, man, my whole frame is the reason why I'm judging myself. And if I can release the frame, I
Mhm.
can step into anything. And I love what you said about the billionaire stuff. Um,
Yeah.
I dealt with a
Well,
guy that dealt with billionaires.
the
Sorry.
the the frame um is always interesting. You know, when
Mm,
I used to put demands on myself as far as money, income, hours
mhm,
worked, you know, whatever. And as soon as I decided that none of that was what was important, because the stress I was creating was for myself. Like I'm the only one that's putting that demand on me. And once I realized that, I was like, oh, it is okay. Like I don't, okay. I have water, I have a house, I have a car. There is no panic to have. And I start sleeping better. I start performing better. Oh, okay. It's self-induced stress and requirements. And, there's a difference between being a high performer and wanting great things for yourself than expecting perfection, because perfection is another form of self-sabotage. There is no perfect. I'm not going to be the first one. Stop trying, stop acting like that. And just snapped myself right out of it. And the stress level goes whoosh, and I start sleeping better and performing better, because it's not the outcome that's important. It's show up and do it. Like nobody signs up for a Spartan race and expects to win. Like, I mean, there might be some wacko that says I'm winning this thing, and maybe they do, right? My goal, show up and finish, just finish. And guess what the highlight of my first Spartan race was? A woman was panicked at a water obstacle that involved the obstacle was on top of the water, and you had to blindly go under and come up. And she didn't know how far it was going to be. And it was literally like this far, right? But she was there frozen, panicked. And I looked at her and I said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "I don't know how far that is." And I said, "Cool, I'll find out." I go under. And I'm like, what did I do? I stuck my hand under and waved to her. And I went like this. I went like this. She grabbed my hand. I yanked her under. Highlight doing that for someone. We took pictures together afterwards, all covered in mud, and laughed about it. She's like, "How ridiculous was I?" And I was like, "Oh, it's okay. I looked before I went under to make sure how far it was." She's like, "I didn't think of that." Like, so it was just a simple reframe for her, me sticking my hand under. And that was the highlight for me, helping someone else tackle something. That's really fun for me. I want to do that every day. Anyway, I'm glad you liked it today. Thank you. Thank you. If you have any questions, just follow up with me. And I just want
I
to
want to say